right, folks, welcome out there to this special, actually very special edition of TNLearn Mathline. Usually we have live call-in shows, but today, being a holiday, Columbus Day, and many of you are on fall break, we're going to take the day and we're going to look at inequalities, all right? We're going to have some fun with those, do some graphing and some things like that. I'm Ernie Roberts. I'm your host for TNLearn Mathline. We will resume being live for you to call in your questions and your responses tomorrow. Also, while you're at it, you may check us out on Facebook and Twitter and email us questions. That's still fine. We'll get to them, but we'll answer them on tomorrow's show, all right? But thank you for tuning in today. We're so glad to have you with us and hope you've enjoyed a great holiday also. And let's see what we're talking about today. I believe we said, oh yeah, which way do I go? And that's all about the inequalities, all right? Which way do I go? We're going to shade to the left. We're going to shade to the right. We're going to open the circles. We're going to close them. The world of math is an interesting thing. We always think there's an exact, precise answer. And most of the times there really isn't, because that's what inequalities are about. Numbers that may be less than 4 could be a solution to a problem. Or numbers that are between two numbers could be a solution to a problem. So that's what this is about today. And we're going to look how to picture them and learn how to picture them on a number line and do a little practice along the way too, all right? So let's see what our first situation is, and you'll see that, this is a fairly straightforward, easy to learn lesson today. That's what we're doing. Sometimes our lessons on specialized segments get a little rough and rugged, but we're going to take it easy today. By the way, get those pencils and papers out. I don't think you're going to need calculators on this one today, all right? Let's take a look at this one. X is greater than 4. I'm going to go ahead and say this. Make sure you understand that those symbols are greater than. That's one of the biggest problems with inequalities with some of my students. They can't tell the difference between greater than or less than, all right? So this one is greater than, and it basically is opening out toward the X, and that may be helpful, I don't know, but nonetheless, that's what we've got, all right? That is opening out toward the X. It's pointing to the right, whatever it takes, but call it greater than. Call it greater than. Now, what do we do with this number? We find this 4 somewhere on the number line. And again, it's all relatively speaking, because number lines go forever and ever both ways. All right, they go left, they go right, they never stop. All right, so I'm going to pick a point here, call it 4. It's really not a big deal. And I'm going to put a circle right there over that 4, a little tick mark there. And I'm going to decide in a minute, do I fill it in or not? All right. The greater than means that I'm going to look for numbers that are bigger than 4. Now, I'm going to tell you something. There are more numbers than 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 that are greater than 4. A lot of times that's what we think, the integers. We think integers. But also 4 and a half, 4 and a fourth. Woo, let's keep coming back close to 4. 4 and 1 100th. Woo, 4.001. All right. What are we doing? What are we doing? We're making it smaller and smaller, but we're never quite getting to 4. So, folks, what we're going to do is we're going to say everything to the right of that open circle right there is good. And by the way, we always darken in our arrows when we do one of those situations where they keep going, all right? Because you can tell it's a lot different than this one over here. This is just a continuation of a line with nothing happening on it. But over here is where the excitement is. And by the way, we're going to leave that open because there's not an equals to underneath that greater than, all right? So that's how we know whether we open. If it's greater than, we're going to shade to the right, and I'm going to put a preface on that. We shade to the right as long as the X is on the left with the greater than symbol. And dear friends, you got to learn what greater than versus equal to, and also what greater than and less than look like. They're important. They are important, all right? So that's our start. That's my point. Let's see where we go with this. All right, let's check our next one out here. This one says X less than. Once again, the X is on the left. Notice our less than, it seems to be pointing to the left, all right? That's a nice way to help some of you through it. But just remember, that's called less than. That's called less than. And left starts with L too, all right? So let's go look for a -3, estimate where it might be. And I have a -3. I don't have an equals to underneath that thing, so we're going to open that circle. We'll decide in a minute. Do we shade it? I don't think we will. I don't think you all probably figured that out too. All right, so let's see. Less than, we're looking for numbers that are smaller. Numbers that are going to the left on the number line. So let's shade off to the left. And we will darken our arrow binge right there, which says it keeps going, keeps going. There are a lot of numbers there. We don't want to mark every point. I mean, there's -4 and -5, but there's also -3.5, -3 3/4, -3 6/10. We could go on and on and on, all right? Infinitely many points. So rather than trying to figure them all out, which would take us forever and ever and ever. Let's just do the shade and move forward. Now, sometimes your teachers may say, just do a little shading above and below. I like to go right on the line. I like to go right on the line. There is no doubt that's where your inequality is happening, all right? And again, open circle because I have no equals to going for me here, all right? So you say, well, Ernie, are we going to see one with an equals to? Oh, yeah, here it comes, all right? X less than or equal to -2. Point we want to call -2 somewhere in this game. And this time I've been harping about open or closed circles. We're going to close this one, and we're going to close it right off the bat. Yeah, my director's smiling on that. And we're going to take a less than approach, which means we're going to kick it off to the left. All right, we're going to go left, 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 left. Make it pretty, and then darken that arrow business right through there so we know where we're going, and you have your graph looking really good. Closed circle, why do we go close this time? Because of that equals to, right there. That's the important thing. Why do we go to the left? Because it says less than. That's called less than or equal to, and that's some good stuff. That's some good stuff right there, all right? So, let's look at the next one. Why not? Let's just look at the next one. I felt like a little deer in the headlights moment there. Let's see what we got. We got -3. I'm going to go ahead and find it right there. You all do the same thing at home on your papers. And we're going to decide for right off the bat, are we going to close it or open that circle? Everybody with me? You got the equals to. Let's fill it in. It's a situation there. It says greater than or equal to. So greater than says we are going to work our way to the right, to the right, to the right. And we'll make that nice darker edge there. And you get the idea. I got a little below the line there, and you get the deal, all right? It's all the way over and down through there. Yeah, there we go. All right, good deal. So shading to the right on this one allows us to have all sorts of numbers, but it also, because we shaded in the -3, it includes -3. And that's the deal. That's the deal. When you see that greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, you're going to shade in the numbers. You say, well, Ernie, have we covered all the bases? Everybody's saying, yeah, we've covered all the bases. We got less than, we got greater than, we got less than or equal to, we got greater than or equal to, and I guess we have. Let's go and look at our next problem here. We're just going to practice a little bit, aren't we? It looks that way. So let's see what we've got here. I've got x less than 0. Now, I picked this problem for a reason. I want to tell you, what does that mean when you see that as a given situation? That tells you that you're looking for an answer or a solution or something that's negative, because that's the kind of numbers that are less than 0. All right, so we're going to find 0 right in the middle. Well, usually is a good place to find it. This time we don't include 0. Don't include it. So we're going to open that circle up. We're going to keep it open. And then we're going to shade it to the left. To the left, as less than would work. There we go. And darken your arrow as you go out that way. Always nice to make that pretty and understood. It keeps going also. So it can be any negative number. There are infinite negative numbers. So again, that's why we just do the shading versus trying to find all the points. Leave it open at 0. That's understood that you're going to get as close to 0 as you can coming in from the negative side. Yeah, from the negative side, as close to 0 as you can possibly get without hitting it. Okay, so there you go. That's the open circle effect. That's what we've got going. That's what we've got going. Now, you said, is that all there is? Of course it is. Well, let's see if that's all there is. This one says, oh my, different, a little bit different, dear friends. We've got the x on the right instead of on the left. You say, well, we've been shading. Does that mean we shade differently? It does. It does. What we're going to do, and I'm going to give you just a little hint here, is we're going to shift. We're going to put the x to the left and the 1 to the right. Now, you don't want to change the validity of this inequality. Notice it's opening out toward the left, so to the x, excuse me. So we're going to open it up to the left here. The equals is fine. The equals fine. So really what this is saying, while up here it says 1 is less than or equal to x, it means the same thing as x greater than or equal to 1. And this is one of the things I just tell my students, it's just easier if you got the idea you're going left, you get your x on the left, it is so much easier just to get its graph. And by the way, it's going to be a closed circle at 1. You know that. Oh yeah, we're going to check that closed circle business. And greater than tells me, let's take it to the right again. Let's see if we can get that to zigzag really better. It's always interesting trying to do shading there on a number line. And it's like, squiggle, 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 squiggle. But there you go. And again, darken that arrow going to the end. It is everything to the right, and that would be the case. Let's do a quick check on that. Put a 2 in there. 1 is less than or equal to 2. It's certainly less than 2. That's all that matters. The equals is arbitrary, all right? It's just another option, one other option there. Now, getting back on track here again, let's take another quick look. You all get to practice on this. Take a look at this. It says x greater than 4. 2 questions I keep wanting to ask you. Open or close circle. Second, do we shade to the left or to the right? Which way do I go? That's what it's about today. Do we shade left? Do we shade right? This one is set up ready to go. The x is on the left, the 4 is on the right. Let's go for it. We have a 4. We'll find it somewhere in there. Again, it's really all relative where we pick to go. And let's be open or close. We're going to open this one because we do not want to include 4. We do not want to include the 4. We will shade it this time for a greater than fashion. Working our way right over there. And we will darken that edge up. That was easy. And folks, that's what it is. That's what it is today. We want to make this easy for you, give you a little bit of practice, a little bit of learning on it. And sometimes, again, we'll switch it up. Like here comes another switch up. Oh, yeah. We've got 2 greater than x on this one. So, again, we're going to start with a 2. And what are we going to do? We're going to switch the order, right? Because we want to get the x on the left side of the inequality. So in doing that, we also must shift greater than to become less than, because it's got to keep, as I say, keep pointing to the same x per se in this case. Notice it's pointing to the right to the x, now it's got to point left. And we're not going to call it point left, point right. We're going to just call it less than at this point. It's x less than 2. Open the circle there and leave it open this time. We're going to leave it open. And we're going to take it to the left, to the left. So here we go. Draw those nice squiggles back. Make your arrows pretty. And there you go. Again, there's an arrow going to the right, but it's basically with nothing attached to it. So that just simply means the number line keeps going there. All right. But we started at 2. There we are. And a quick check. Let's pick a number that would be less than 2. How about 0? And says 2 greater than 0? Yes, it is. That's always an easy way to check that you shaded the correct way. Just put a number back in there that you in the shaded area and ask yourself, true or false? If it's true, you did it right. If it's false, we need to look at the other side. All right. So graphing on the number line, easy does it. Easy does it. And let's see if we got anything left to look at on the number line. Oh, Ernie. That doesn't say greater than. That doesn't say less than. It says, and I'm restroking it there, not equal to. Not equal to negative 1.5. So somewhere we're going to put a negative 1.5 on that number line. And that basically, my friend, says it is any number but that negative 1.5. So that tells me right there it's open circle. But now, numbers that are not negative 1.5, there are some that go to the right, there are some that are bigger, but there are some that are smaller. In fact, there's an infinite number on either side. So what we're going to do, we're going to shade to the right. Watch that shade and go, whoa, 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 there it goes. Darken up that arrow. But this time we're going to go back to the left also. We're going to take it, and we're going to shade it back over. Make that arrow darker. And I'll tell you something, folks. That's everything. That covers everything except that little gap hole right there, the little gappy hole there, all right? And the little gap is 1 point. 1 point. Now you say, looks like a bigger than one, but that's just it. We use these open circles to represent, and you've got to make them big enough to notice that they aren't closed, all right? So it's a gap, but it's representing one location on the number line. So which way do we go on that one? We go both ways, all right? That's pretty cool, all right? So there's different things that we can do. One last shot here for us. How about it? We've got negative 4 greater than x. So let's do that switcheroo. I bet y'all are already doing it back at home, all right? I bet y'all are taking care of it. It's going to be x less than your negative 4. Woohoo! That's so much easier, isn't it? Just do the switch, do the shift. Shift it out there, all right? Now it's saying we're going to go to the left because it says less than. All right, so let's find negative 4 in the chart. Here we go. And we open that circle. Definitely open that circle. and we put a nice dark arrow, and let's fill it in all the way back to your -4. You got it to that open circle. Keep it pretty. You got it going. All right, that's what you're looking for. There you have it. So again, that time we shaded to the left because it was less than. We shaded to the right when it's greater than, as long as you've got your variable. And I've used x a lot today, all right? If I use different variables, it doesn't matter. Just as long as your variable is to the left and your number is to the right, it's easy, easy, easy to do the number line. Okay, so let's take a look at our next one. Oh dear, what happens? What happens here? Well, you know what? Dear friends, guess what? Guess what? Guess what? There's the variable's in the middle. There's two inequalities. What do we do? What do we do? So let's take a look at it. It says, first of all, that x is bigger than -1, but x is also less than 3. So what we're looking at 2 points of information here. How about it? We'll start at -1, and we'll start over here at 3. You say, well, Ernie, if we had that, I put my fingers up. My fingers are good for such things like this. But if I cover it up, I've got x less than 3. And you know what? That would be everything to the left of 3. However, it's also telling me my x has to be greater than -1, which means if I cover up this part, that's telling me x is bigger than -1. Wow. But it tells me I don't want 3 or -1, so I'm going to put open circles right there off the bat. Okay? Now the question is, what do we do? Where do we shade? Because I basically just said -1, if it's greater than -1, it's all the way over there. If it's less than 3, it's all the way back this way to the left. So we just shade everything? This is an and. We're basically looking for the values of x that says where they are greater than -1, but less than -3. So in other words, they've got to work together. This has got to happen at the same time. So where do we have numbers like that? Basically, we're saying x is somewhere between -1 and 3. And here's where my students start thinking, oh yeah, that would be 0, 1, and 2, which is true. But dear friends, there's many, many more opportunities also. 1/2 will work. A -1/2 will work. All these fractions, all these decimals, all these things in between -1 and 3 work. So guess what? We are going to take the approach and shade in the middle. We're going to shade in the middle. Now, you say, well, what about all those guys over there? Well, didn't we shade them? We shaded them once. But remember, this is an and situation. It's got to be bigger than -1 and less than 3 at the same time. So that basically cuts these off and cuts these off because they only happen if you look at these one at a time. You've got to look at this whole thing as a combined inequality is what we call it. And we wind up shading in the middle. That's why I like sometimes say it's just saying x is between -1 and 3. You can use the less than as a greater than, but it also basically means that. So while we're at it, let's take a look at the next one here. Let's take a look at the next one. Just a little practice moment. One switch. Ooh, one switch. He always makes a switch, doesn't he? Subtle switch. But I put a equals to with the 4 over here, and I've got just less than attached to the 0, all right? So we're basically saying here, 0 is less than x, which is the same thing as saying, right, everybody got it? X greater than 0. What this just tells me, by the way, with x greater than 0, that just tells me that x is a positive value. So we're going to find also the point 0, that's important to us, as is the number 4. Estimate where it is, all right, just out through there. Now, let's go ahead and make our circles, because they're important. They're our boundaries. Big numbers, important. Question is, are they going to be open or closed? Well, if you look at the 0, what's it attached to? It's attached to the less than symbol here, which tells me, leave it open. Leave it open. There's not an equals to, so we can't get to 0. But over here we've got a 4 with the equals. That, dear friends, we will shade in. We will attack that one, okay? Now, speaking of which, where do we go? Remember what I said earlier about being x looks like it's in between? It is. It's exactly. It's saying it's bigger than 0, going this way, but we have to cut it off at 4. So it's everything in this little pocket here. And we're just going to shade right in the middle, and there's your situation. Now, you can pick a point. How about it? Throw in a 1. 1 is between 0 and 4, all right? Try -1. -1 does not work here, so that's why we didn't shade. And notice we didn't shade on any of the arrows, nor did we on the last one, because this is all about what's in the middle. All about with the middle. You're not taking it to the left, you're not taking it to the right. This one, which direction you're going? You're going in the middle. Going to the middle. That's your story. That's your story on this one, okay? Now, summing it up, what we got going here? We got some good stuff. And guys, if y'all just go ahead and drop, thank you there, drop my lower third out of the way there. And it says, given two real numbers, A and B. So A and B are representing any kind of fractions, decimals, percents, rational, irrational, integer values, go on and on. And one of the following must be true. And exactly one must be true, all right? Either A is equal to B, it's less than B, or it's going to be greater than B. So in other words, if I pick two numbers, any two numbers at random, there's only three options. They can be the same, they can be equal to each other, one can be larger than the other, and that same one could be smaller than the other. Only one can hold true. So let's take a look at our first possibility here. This one's easy. This one's easy for everybody. You can go, ding, 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 I got that right, okay? Let's see, it says, which is true? 4 less than 5, and again, this is just working your symbols. 4 greater than 5, or 4 equaling to 5. So if we look at that, what are we going to go to? How about the less than? If we count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we choose that, guess what? We can't choose the other two because they aren't true, all right? 4 is not greater than 5, nor is it equal to 5. So that's pretty easy. We said, well, that's real easy. By the way, there's a fancy name for that. It's called the trichotomy property. Try for 3. There's 3 options, and only one of them works, okay? Now, another thing here, which symbol goes between -4 and -8? Let's suppose I write -4, which I'm going to do, and my -8 right there. The question is, are we going to use equals, less than, or greater than? And if you're like some of my students, they forget, oh, 4 smaller than 8, so it would be a less than. But what we're asking here is, what is closer to 0? The -4 is closer to 0, which means it's further right than the -8. So actually, this one is going to go greater than right there. And that's the story, because greater than is to the right of -8 on the number line. It's all about direction. Which way do we go? All right. Now, what about this one? 3/4, if I have it, and 6/8. You know, looking at that, there are two fractions. You're going like, Ernie, what are you doing to us? We're going to have fractions? Hey, they're real numbers. They're real numbers, so they got to be used. But what we can do with 6/8 here is very simple. We can reduce it down to, you got it, 3/4. And those two are equal. Those are equal fractions. They're different expressions, but they tell us the same story. They give us 75%, 75 cents for those of you who like your money, or 3/4 if you like the fractions, okay? So let's take a look at our next little problem here. It says, put the following numbers in order from least to greatest. These are one of those great test questions they love to put on these standardized tests to see, do you have a concept of where things are? Now, I put a number line here. We're gonna put it on there, but I want to see if we can do this without the number line first. See if we can think this through in our heads, all right? I looked for what looks like to be the middle. I know that in the middle, 0 is going to exist here on this, okay? So we put a 0. And I know positive numbers are going to go to the right. Well, there are 2 of those. That's easy. We know how to count. We all know how to count. So we put a 3 and we put our 4 here. Now, here's the big question mark. Where are we going to put the negative? Where are we going to put -5 and -9? Well, -5, remember, is closer to 0. And that's what we're looking at. When we talk about least to greatest, we are basically ordering these guys on the number line. We're looking at them on the number line. And that's our story right there. Now, on the number line, let's go ahead and put 0 right here in the middle. We like that. Over here, we'll say we got 3. And a little bit further over, we got 4. I'm not going to say these are perfectly exact. And to represent, since we're just looking at those points, we will do this. We will put dots there on the number line, okay? We've been worrying about opening and closing circles. These are just like little closed circles. They're basically dots. They represent, those are what we want, all right? Let's go back to the left. How about it? We got -5. Oh, -9 is probably going to be off the chart, but you get the idea. It's further to the left. So least to the middle to the greatest, all right? So if you'll get back to a number line, dear friends, when you get a problem like that, this was pretty easy. It was all integers, but you start seeing fractions, you may see decimals coming into play, all the other good things. Those are when these problems, having a number line and also being able to put things like that, you know how it works. You go from the negatives to the positives, and look at their absolute values. How far away are they from zero? That helps you in your placement on a number line. Hey, we've had a great time today looking at inequalities. And you know, we're going to look at these more in depth. This was just very scratching the surface. Knowing where do we turn, which way do we go. Speaking of where do we turn, how about it? Facebook is out there for you, www.facebook.com with a / on TNLearn. Hit us on those emails also, even though we weren't live today, mathline@tnlearn.org. YouTube, we've got this show probably popping up, www.youtube.com / TNLearn. And for other things, our problems of the day. But tomorrow we are going to be back live again. Today was Columbus Day. We figured out which way we're going to turn. We'll do some more specialized segments this Friday and the rest of the month. But tomorrow it is live. Give us calls in, tune in then, be with us, and we'll have a good time. See you then.